The Dean's List student's complaints against her parents began when she'd realized they'd installed monitoring software on her computer and her phone, making the singing hopeful feel like, quote, a dog with a collar. They also paid unannounced visits to their daughter, traveling 600 miles from their home in Kansas to meet with Aubrey's department head, accusing their daughter of promiscuity, doing drugs, and having mental issues to the point where they were considering going to court to order that she get treatment.
Parents throughout history have had trouble with parenting. It is difficult for parents to know what to do with kids since it is very different from child to child. However, in some cases, parents believe that they need to be more involved than what they need to. Such in this news story, Aubrey felt that her parents were becoming over-involved with her life. This is understandable since she is 21 and in college. In the book Ordinary People, Calvin, the father, and Conrad, his son, have disagreements about whether or not Conrad needs to see the psychologist as displayed by this quote. This is an example of parents not knowing their bounds. Conrad is very consistent with saying he does not need help. However, his father believes he does need the help.
Overparenting does not only happen when the child is older, it can happen at a very early age. This can both be mentally and physically demeaning to the child. An example of this, a quote states, "A pretty significant concern with what happens with this type of parenting, narcissism and entitlement are bedfellows. They just go hand in hand." Overparenting can also cause other problems in terms of depression, anxiety, and negative coping behaviors.
You know, here's the reality. Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're not protective just of their baby girl at the hospital. Now reports are claiming that the power couple are asking visitors to wear surgical masks and gloves before holding the newborn, allegedly. And we just want to talk about, is this going overboard or being smart?
A lot of parents are pretty concerned, but parents got to remember, your baby has an immune system, and it's actually a lot stronger than you might think. And every day it gets stronger and stronger. Your baby is exposed to hundreds of different germs and antigens almost every hour. Just one feeding, a breastfeeding, you're being exposed to good germs that is building.
I mean, that's the point you're making, that it's important
it's building your child's immune system.
To get your immune system to work, you have to trigger it by exposing it.
Right,
so
but at the same time, you don't want to be silly.
Right,
you don't want to go out.
Silly. You don't want to go out and just, hey, cough on my baby, please.
Exactly.
No. But you know, if a baby were to be exposed to no germs at all, there would be problems later on. The immune system wouldn't have been exercised at all.
Sort of like the baby in the bubble.
Yeah.
But if you had an infant and a guest was coming over and they were obviously sick, I think it would be totally appropriate. Have them put the surgical mask on because an infant
shouldn't even be there. Yeah.
For the first couple of months, I tell parents, if somebody's sick, don't even have them come over. I have a 2-month rule: stay away from crowds. Okay, and then of course, you know, keep your baby's checkups with the doctor and start that vaccine schedule on time, because a lot of the things we give early. I know there's a lot of controversy about vaccines, but those ones that we give early against meningitis, against pneumonia, blood infections, those are the ones that are really important for babies.
In this case, the parents wanted to help keep any visitors and even doctors away from their child if they did not have any surgical masks on, so the baby would not get sick. This, as displayed by the video clip, is actually bad for the baby. In the classic rub some dirt on it. When the baby gets exposed to germs, it strengthens its immune system to fight even worse bacteria and germs. If the child is kept in a plastic bubble, the baby will not be exposed to basic diseases and will not be able to fight them and build a stronger immune system because of them.
This kind of parenting can be detrimental for a child. Parents should allow kids a bit more freedom to go out, get dirty, and make mistakes on their own so they can learn. Not making the grade or scoring the winning point are valuable lessons for kids as well, whereas witnessing a parent screaming at a teacher or coach only undermines that adult's authority. If a child's parent would continue to do this, the child will believe that when they do not get what they want, all they have to do is complain about it till they get their way. This can create entitlement, complex, and egotistical personality. We then had an interview with one of the school counselors on how unfair or fair they felt their parents were.
I think my parents were pretty fair. I really do. They let me do things as long as I was responsible and respectful, and I didn't give them any reason to not trust me. They pretty much let me do what I wanted to do. They set limits, and if I followed those limits, and I felt they were fair, so I used that same thing with my boys. I had 3 boys, and as long as they didn't give me any reason to not trust them, I was pretty, I think, fair with them also.
After that, we asked the teacher along with the school counselor about how they felt their parents affected their personality.
My parents affected my personality definitely. I feel that the way they have raised me, the morals, the values that they instilled in me, leading by example, modeling, both positive and negative, I think have affected my personality. I know definitely my quick temper, my probably easy frustrated when things get difficult is definitely from my father. I see that he has these qualities in his personality, yet the creative, love of literature, these items are from my mother, so I think both of them have affected my personality.
First question is, how do you feel your parents affected your personality? I think they affected it positively. My parents were strict, so I learned self-discipline, and my parents were, I think, very reasonable and kind, and so I learned to be generous, and I learned how to empathize with other people, and I learned to care about other people. My dad in particular had a great personality and was a very funny man, so I think he kind of added to my enjoying jokes and, like being around people. I think that they had a very positive effect on the way I was raised. There's always negative things, but I'd rather, talk about the positive things that my parents, how they affected me.
In addition, we asked the people who were interviewed to tell about some of the things they felt were unfair, that they did not get, and whether it was good or bad for their character to not get the special treatment others got.
Growing up, sometimes I felt like it wasn't fair. A lot of kids got stuff. My parents didn't have a whole lot of money. However, I wasn't necessarily jealous or felt like I was jaded somehow because my parents gave me what they could and always kind of centered their giving around pivotal and monumental moments in my life.
But of course, everybody's just going to be different. A lot of that, like the parenting styles are going to be different, and more kids are going to get more stuff just based on where they're brought up. So obviously, everybody knows like that.
Times were different when I was growing up. Yeah, there were kids who got more stuff than I did, but I don't know if I ever felt like it wasn't fair. I felt as though I had what I needed. Yeah, I would have liked some of the stuff that some of my girlfriends got, but we didn't get cars back then. Parents didn't buy cars for kids, and a large amount of an allowance was maybe 25 cents. So it's just totally, different than, and I don't really know too many of my friends that got allowances. We pretty much had to do it because we were part of the family and we had things to do, and we didn't get paid for it.
We also asked one of the teachers to tell us about some of the types of parents they have encountered and what kind of student the child was because of that.
In terms of teaching, I've seen multiple types of parenting styles. I've seen parents who try and engage their child as a buddy, as a friend. Typically, those types of students have no boundaries or boundary issues. Sometimes they can't respect authority. They don't understand where the limit is. They aren't usually helpful when it comes to setting out guidelines and discipline. I've also seen parents who are overly domineering, authoritative. Their child becomes withdrawn, scared, afraid to take risks, afraid to make thoughts on their own without parental supervision.
Mrs. Koenig said that she has seen two predominant kinds of parenting styles that have caused problems with the students. It is obvious that the students who are friends with their parents have trouble with being told what to do and seem not to care about authority. If the parent cannot put their child into place and be strict, it is nearly impossible for any teacher to do so. She has also seen parents that were overly controlling with their children. Those students have their parents do so much for them that they do not know what to do when they are in trouble. This can become worse and worse as the child gets older. They may not be able to be told what to do and also not only have trouble finding a job, but also when they find a job, they may not be able to handle being put into the place over and over again. If their parent was overly controlling, they might not know what to do when they are put into a position of power. If they have to make tough decisions, they would most likely resort back to their parents for help rather than figure it out themselves. An example of a parent being over involved in a child's life is in the book Ordinary People. In the quote on the screen, one could conclude that Conrad did not want to cooperate with his psychologist due to the fact that he is forced to see him. Authority reigns, as said in the book.
Now back.
Aubrey Ireland is a gifted 21-year-old theater major, often winning major roles in her school's musicals. But her latest win wasn't at her prestigious music conservatory, but in court after she filed a civil stalking order against her parents. Earlier this month, a judge ruled in her favor, ordering that her parents must stay at least 500 feet away from their only child.
It is extremely unusual for a child to get a restraining order against their parents. A restraining order, as most know, is usually in the case of a person being stalked or in instances of rape. There are two sides of the story that one could side with the parents or Aubrey. This is Aubrey.
They basically thought that because they were paying for my college tuition and living expenses that they could tell me what to do, who to hang out with, and, basically control all of my daily life. My mom has always been very overly involved, and I would have to get on Skype all the time and show them that I was in my dorm room, or like there were nights where I had to leave my Skype on all night. And my mom would watch me basically sleep. I never wanted this to happen. That's the last thing I wanted, but I wasn't in control of my life at all anymore. I knew that they were holding me back emotionally, mentally, and professionally, and that it got to the point where that was basically my last option.
She told the public that what her parents forced her to do is absolutely insane. She is a 21-year-old adult and she is in college. Her parents should have no control over what she does, even if they are paying for her education. This is a prime example of a controlling parent. She would be able to experiment and make her own mistakes, which are the way she will learn best, not by being told what to do. In addition, the Skype incident is beyond bizarre and just plain creepy. Now the parents also have their side of the story, which would fit the situation.
She claims her parents, David and Julie Ireland, have been diagnosed with codependency disorder, but they say their daughter is just a good actor, saying she's lying and calling her an only child who's been catered to all her life.
The parents blame themselves for what she has become. They say that they gave her too much when she was little, and she became entitled to everything. They back it up with saying that she was the only child and was catered to all her life. One would agree that Aubrey may be in the wrong here.
It is difficult to side with one or the other due to the fact that either one or of the two could be lying. As we started the documentary, we started to run into problems. Mrs. Tim had an answer to one of the interview questions that actually summed up the problem pretty well.
Their families could afford it, and I didn't grow up with anyone in my neighborhood that they were extravagant. I think it's relative to where you grew up, and I don't think it hurt them. I certainly don't. Again, I don't think that anything that they got that I would have wanted was extravagant. And were they responsible kids? Yeah, absolutely. They were good kids, but we were all pretty much on the same social economical level.
We found out as the project carried on that it is difficult to come to a conclusion on such a small population. Mrs. Tim pointed out that she did not come to many of these cases over parenting because everyone in her community was just about even. No one was over the line in any way. If we would have had a larger, more diverse community, we could be able to come to a better conclusion. With our small town, we do not have enough people to sample from to get a good, solid answer.